Good morning and welcome to Mentoring Myself. This is a transformational podcast, and I am Natalie J Whyte. I'm a transformational lifestyle coach. And one of the fun things for me is to speak to experts and get some advice that they would give their younger self. Today we have Chris Palmer on, and he is a financial advisor. You can see it's working because he's there on the beach. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Well, I've been a financial advisor for about the past 5 years. Before that, I was working in music my whole life. But music these days is not very sustainable. So, I mean, especially now with lockdowns and stuff. But even before that, with downloading and stuff, music has kind of taken a back seat to my life. I still run my studio at home part time, but work mainly in the finance industry. Yeah, that's a bit of background about me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I know you've also started a podcast yourself as well, which is the finances, helping people with their finances.
Yeah, it's called Mind at Ease. It's basically just about basic finance. Well, we started with basic finance. We'll start branching out into more sort of detail about different ways that people can start looking after their finances as we go, um, and then get feedback from people on what issues they're having and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's great because I think for the South African, sort of the South African clients, there are so many questions that they don't really know. You can find a lot of stuff online, but it's not always relevant to our context. So I think that's
True.
great.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
also, I mean, just our tribe as such um, also need a bit of mentoring in terms of their finances, and a lot of people through this lockdown have lost a lot of their ability to look after themselves financially. So we're going to have to build that up again. I
mhm.
was reading an article yesterday about, that was saying a lot of pension funds, people just stopped contributing to their pension funds, and a lot of pension funds were in trouble because all of a sudden they'd lost their income too. So it's been across the board, and also people getting retrenched and stuff like that. So it's been tough on a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. As a coach, the sort of first session that I'm having with most of my clients is, how do we sort this financial situation out? So it's definitely coming up. One thing else I wanted to mention is that you also run the Facebook group Jozi Mentors, which
Yes.
I think is very useful. And obviously, between you and I, we have great salience,
Hmm.
in that. And hopefully, sometime we can do a collab. Do you want to just mention that and
Yeah.
just what it's about?
Yeah, so I saw a need for people looking for work and needing help, just in sort of pursuing different income streams for themselves. Yeah, I was reading an article as well about how a lot of famous, well, not famous, but very wealthy people have up to 9 income streams to look after themselves. So 9 separate income streams, and
Wow.
also that most businesses fail 7 times before you find a business that succeeds. So in order to what they were saying essentially is in order to have 9 successful businesses, you need to do 63. You need to start 63 businesses before you actually have those 9 solid income streams, which is a bit of an eye opener for me. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
To get solid income. Yeah.
that is
Hmm.
quite wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot. Then I can count
Yeah.
on a
And,
few
and I
stars
think
for what I'm
people,
doing.
yeah, I think people are also a bit scared of failure, but I mean, the more you fail, the more likely you are to succeed. I think even if you look at someone like Richard Branson,
Hmm.
for his first few tries, he had um, a lot of failure, and then finally got into record mailing and mailing records to people and made a huge success of it, and that's how Virgin Music was born. So yeah, and you need to fail in order to succeed, and you need to do it quite a few times in order to
Hmm.
get solid income. It would seem, but actually, yeah, it was quite an eye-opening concept for me. That sure,
Sure.
yeah,
So you're going to be advising people lots then. Wow. Okay, let's move on to the question, the pertinent
Hmm?
question. What
Yes.
advice would you give your younger self?
Well, uh, I have sort of a background in that too. In that, when I was younger, when I started working, I took out a long endowment policy with Old Mutual, which was going to pay out quite a bit of money for me when I turned 55. And obviously I would be contributing it to it every month and what have you. And then when I lost that job sometime later, I didn't lose it. I left voluntarily, but I moved on to a different job. And Old Mutual went through a change and they became a public company. And they offered people shares in the company, and or they offered you a cash payment to buy your shares from you, so they could buy your shares from you, or you could keep them and obviously they would grow. And I, like an idiot, sold my shares off for a paltry sum. I think it was like 4,000 Rand at the time. Back then it was a bit more than it is now, but it was still a paltry sum. And that could have been sort of a lot more, made me a lot more financially secure, in that I would have been able to get it at 55, which is for me is only in 5 years' time, and made me a lot more financially secure where I am now. And that's, I think a lot of people don't realize that wealth takes a long time to build. It with compound interest, you gain money over the years, and as you build up that money, you can always loan against it if you like. But if you keep that money where it is, your wealth is secured. And a lot of people don't realize that. And they will go and they will take their provident funds and spend it. And then by the time they come to retirement, they don't have that nest egg to look after themselves. And that would make them wealthy when they retire, because they could all of a sudden buy a business cash if they wanted, or they could use the money as they see fit. There's also two kinds of nest eggs you can have when you do retire. When you eventually get to that kind of space, or you, I mean, even if you take early retirement and you run a business or whatever, there's two kinds of ways you can look after yourself. The one is to build up a retirement annuity where you take a third as a lump sum when you retire, and you can retire at 55 is the legal age, minimum legal age. And you take a third of it as a lump sum, and the rest is sort of like a pension paying you out every month like an income. But that depletes over time. And a lot of people will live up to 30 years after they retire and use up the money that they have. So it's also a good idea. There's what's called a guaranteed annuity, which you literally buy when you retire, and that gives you a guaranteed income for life. If you die tomorrow, it stops paying. So you've paid this money and you don't get it. But if you live for 30 years, it's going to pay you the same income, or also an income every month. So it's good to have a balance maybe between the two, where the one you can draw down as much as you want or you need. And if it runs out, you still have the other to look after yourself when you're older. Because nobody wants to work my gran worked till she was 88 as a legal secretary because she wanted to, I guess. But I don't think many people want to work that late in their lives.
And I think even if you are working, even if you have a job that you love, because luckily with life coaching, sort of the older you get, the more wise you get, the easier the system becomes for you. However, no one's going to say no to a $1 million Rand showing up in your account because the policy is suddenly matured. It's going to help you no matter what situation you're in, whether you earning income, passive income, or whatever. A cash injection at any point is going to be great. Then we can join you on the beach there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even have a little house on the beach somewhere. That's always nice.
Yes.
There's lots of ways to kind of build up that wealth, but as long as you're saving, and I was saying this on my podcast the other day, it's a good idea to try and build 10 to 20% of your income into a savings plan and use the rest as your budget. I know a lot of people can't afford it at the moment, but I think once this disease leaves us and we start to go into better times, we'll go into a bit of a boom economy, because everyone will be much more grateful and appreciative, and obviously enjoy the work that they have more, because all of a sudden they've seen what it is like to not have work. So I feel anyway that we'll probably go into a boom after this, which would be great. It happened in the 80s when I was very young, and it's a kind of time. It was when Bill Clinton was president, and it was kind of time that was quite carefree, and people, the hairstyles got wild, and people were going out and being wild because they didn't have much to worry about in terms of financially. Everything was good. So it'd be nice if that happens and we do go into a boom and everyone starts experiencing better financial times. Also, it would be nice if we kind of find a new way to extend capitalism into a more social aspect where people are looking after each other as well as themselves. These billionaires hoarding money, as much as it's still getting used in the economy. There should be, I mean, there's some people that can't give away money fast enough. There's a woman that gives away $6 billion a year and she earns like $18 billion a year and she can't actually give it away fast enough. It's like, so this
I would
interesting.
love her number.
Yeah.
I got some ideas. I'm good at operationalizing love, I can help her with that. Yeah, no, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Even people like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they get a lot of bad publicity because there's a lot of people that are against them. But the good that they do in terms of the amount of charity work, I mean, even just buying mosquito nets and putting in toilets for people around the world is like massive charity. You know what I mean? Can you imagine all of a sudden having a toilet built next to your house as opposed to having to walk to an outhouse down the road or whatever? If it just appears, it's obviously going to be a lot better than living in squalor your whole life. So they do good work, and yet people attack them for like various issues that they see in their charity giving. Meanwhile, it's their foundation; they can give or do whatever they want with their money. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It doesn't behoove them to use it in any way that the rest of society thinks they should.
Yeah.
And yet they're doing good work. Yeah.
They don't really need the approval.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't believe in charity. I mean, there's even religions that don't believe in charity. But I mean, you do have to look after each other. You can't just turn a blind eye at someone that's dying next to you. You know what I mean? It's just not right.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the, some of the things that I've personally experienced and witnessed during this lockdown time and everything is that two things. Number one is I've become a lot more frugal, a lot more economical with not just my spending habits, but just, like how I eat, electricity, using water, all these kind of things, which is, to be honest, I mean, I think we've probably discussed this before, but we were, the consumerism was out of hand. It's out of, it was completely out of hand. So this has been a nice little reconnection with what actually does give us pleasure, what does actually make us happy. It's not buying something, a new thing every single weekend, at the mall. And then the
absolutely, agreed.
Yeah, and then the other thing I've noticed is the community. There's a lot of people who have really sort of jumped in and giving free food to people and trying to raise money and helping each other, and so I have seen that sense of community because as much as people want to get on with their own missions in their life, they also we don't do well when we watch other people suffering, when we see other people struggling.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And to just turn your back at it is not going to help the situation. Like stick your head in the sand like an ostrich is not going to help the situation. We really do need a sense of community and people looking out for each other. And I think also having watched how people have sort of made strides in that they've been much more charitable and they're looking after their friends and family has been quite heartwarming. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, which is great. I mean, financially, I don't remember a time in my life that's been as tough on our society as it is now worldwide, and yet a lot of people are still making a lot of money. In fact, some people are making more money now because they've structured their businesses that way. So I think essentially the economy has changed somewhat in that maybe the money is not moving as freely as it used to in certain areas, but in other areas it's starting to move freely again.
Yeah, definitely.
It's tough though, the lockdown, especially if you're in any kind of business that has with entertainers. Like I'm a DJ as well, so to have entertainers not be able to work for over a year now is just I mean, it's heartbreaking for them,
Yeah, yeah.
especially if you are making your living doing it. I was more doing it as my hobby to express myself, but to have it as your living is very tough to not be able to do it.
Yeah.
I was playing sometimes 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a weekend, and now I've done one gig this entire year so far. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's massively different. Yeah,
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 definitely. I worry so much about the waitering staff at restaurants, like honestly,
yes,
because their income is already not a stable thing, and now
yes,
they completely can't even work. So when
yes.
the
It's
last
true.
lockdown was announced, I felt quite heartbroken for them,
Mm,
because it's
yeah,
been tough already because there are such low numbers anyway, but now to be locked
yeah,
down again, it's
and
really, really
also
tough.
alcohol sales as well. I
Oh
mean,
yes,
the
yes, of
alcohol
course.
industry is still struggling from the last time they locked it down, and now
Mm,
they've locked it down again. I mean, I don't understand it. Yes, they stopped alcohol selling over weekends because that's when most of the trauma was happening. So I still don't understand why they've forbade it completely.
mm,
It doesn't make financial sense to me at all.
yeah.
Just because they have not made enough provision in hospitals for this,
Mm.
it shouldn't affect that side of things. They should obviously have pushed more money into policing it rather than
Yes,
prohibition. I feel.
yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Look, I'm a bit biased there. You know, I'm not a friend of alcohol, so
No, I agree,
but the financial area and that I see it. I see it.
yeah, I mean, even when they banned cigarettes, I'm totally against cigarettes. Having quit 18 years ago after smoking 20 every day, they say that ex-smoker is always the worst. Um, but I didn't believe in prohibition. I've never have believed in prohibition. I don't think it solves anything. Even with um, drug wars that America's been fighting against cocaine, I don't believe that prohibition helps. And if you look at what Portugal did not so long ago and opened um, their board. I mean, they made it, they decriminalized them
Yes.
as Holland. It's made a massive difference. Their actual usage statistics have gone down. People who are junkies are now getting help, and just generally looking after themselves better. The prohibition, I don't think, is a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it works in any way.
Yeah. No. No. You know. I
So,
agree. We've had this discussion before.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely agree. Definitely
I
agree.
mean, since marijuana has been made available in the states, Colorado has built 3 hospitals and 2 schools or something like that from taxes that they've received on marijuana sales. So I mean, that to me is great, and
Yes.
all power to them for that.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
see the positives in prohibition or forcing people not to do something.
Yeah. I think,
Rather
like you
let them
said.
do it, and if it's well, I'd rather let them do it, and if it's bad for them, they can figure it out for themselves, and if they can't figure it out for themselves, then people will help them to be um, less dangerous to themselves, much like people with mental instability too, mental issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's a much better way of looking at it.
Yeah, and like you said, there is still money flowing, but perhaps the avenues into which it's flowing in the fields and the areas or whatever is changing. So, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, definitely. So I want to,
Yeah, I mean, I
you
was chatting
finish
to
first.
Charlie who you had on your first podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also saying that the economy is not bad as such; it's just changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of tend to see what he's saying with that because generally the money is just moving into different circles, and finding ways to tap into that is where we should be looking. And still being freely abundant with everything that we have and grateful for what we have, and just trying to figure out ways to tap into the way that money is moving now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy though, and with
No.
our digital world, there's a lot of people that are cut out from the digital world, so that makes it even tougher for them.
Yes, definitely. So to end off, I'm going to ask you just for a little snippet, like a little takeaway that you can give to people, just to advise them in this current situation, obviously in terms of your area of expertise, the financial and stuff, what can they do? Just something simple that they can do as soon as they're able.
Yeah, I have a friend, Sylvan, who I haven't seen for a while because he's now moved back to France. But he was always very adamant to live beneath your means, save your money and live beneath your means, rather spend a little bit less and save some money for rainy days. It just makes so much more sense that when you really need the money, when the rainy days come, that it's there for you. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a really good way to live. Just spend a
Yes,
bit less. And I think we've all learned to spend a bit less over this lockdown. Yeah.
definitely. Definitely, yeah. So it has been going out, obviously going out a lot less as well,
Yes.
which is quite an expense.
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm.
Yeah.
Well, it has been great chatting to you, Chris. Thank you so much for being
Same.
on. And yeah, I'm gonna also check out your podcast as well. I'm keen to get some basics.
Cool.
You know how I am
Mm.
about finances, but you know what? We all get our
Yes.
ducks in a row at some point. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
I think
it's
as we build up to this boom that I'm talking about, things will start to happen in that way. Yeah.
oh yes,
Mm.
definitely. So thank you so much for coming on. And
Pleasure.
yeah, do you want to just maybe tell people where they can get hold of you for some
Sure.
financial advice?
Sure. So I work for a company called BrightRock. They can email me on my BrightRock email. It's chrisp@brightrock.co.za. That's brightrock.co.za.
Hmm.
Or through my podcast, I've got a Mind at Ease at gmail.com that they can also mail me about. If they want a free financial needs analysis, I'm available to do that for them anytime. If they want, or I mean, we could even, should I give you my number if they want to call me?
No, I think the emails are fine. And then I just
Okay,
wanted to
cool.
mention also that you do assist people with a will as well.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's an important aspect too, is to have a will, because if you die without a will, you can wait up to 8 years for your estate to be wound up, which puts a huge financial pressure on your dependents. So, yeah, it's a really good idea to get a will done, and we can do that. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we
Pleasure.
shall chat again soon.
Okay.
Thanks for
Take
being
it easy.
on.